I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, April the 28th, 2014. Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, was marked in Israel and across the Jewish world today to remember and mourn the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis during the Holocaust. Israel's President Shimon Peres, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and members of Israel's Knesset took part in the Everyone Has a Name ceremony held at Israel's parliament today, where they, among many others, read the names of family members killed by the Nazis during the Holocaust. President Peres spoke about his family members from the town of Vyshnieva, then part of Poland, now in Belarus, who were killed together with the 2,060 residents of the town who were gathered in a synagogue and burned down by the Nazis. Peres said half of the Jews of Vyshnieva made Aliyah to Israel, the other half were burned alive. He said, "Our body was split in half, our souls remain one. They live here in Israel in an independent Jewish state that cannot be destroyed." At 10 o'clock this morning in Israel, the country came to a standstill with the sounding of the 2-minute siren for Yom HaShoah. Other ceremonies across the country included the B'nai B'rith International Center and Jewish National Fund's joint ceremony at the Forest of the Martyrs on the outskirts of Jerusalem, and a state memorial service at the Hall of Names at Yad Vashem. And this afternoon in Poland, a delegation from Israel joined Jews and non-Jews from across the globe in the March of the Living, where over 10,000 participants made the symbolic walk just under 2 miles from Auschwitz to the Birkenau extermination camp. The march's organizers also recognized other atrocities across the world at the beginning of the ceremony today, including the genocide in Rwanda, the mass slaughter in the Balkan, and the murder of tens of thousands of innocent people in Syria. They said, "We started the March of the Living 26 years ago to send a message against anti-Semitism and xenophobia. Unfortunately, our efforts have yet to bear fruit." And U.S. President Barack Obama released a statement from the White House for Yom HaShoah, where he said he joins people of all faiths in the U.S., in Israel, and around the world in mourning and remembering the victims of the Holocaust. He said, "On this Yom HaShoah, let us recommit ourselves to the task of remembrance and to always oppose anti-Semitism wherever it takes root." The president said, "Together we must give enduring meaning to the words never again." President Obama will address Holocaust survivors and those who work to preserve their testimony when he speaks at the Shoah Foundation next week. Israeli media reports, citing a report yesterday in the Daily Beast, that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry warned foreign leaders of what could happen if peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians fail, suggesting that such an outcome could put Israel at risk of becoming a, quote, apartheid state. The Daily Beast claims it acquired recordings from the private meeting Kerry held this past Friday with the Trilateral Commission, a non-governmental organization committed to fostering closer ties between Europe, North America, and Japan. Kerry was cited by the report as saying in the meeting that a two-state solution will be clearly underscored as the only real alternative, because a unitary state winds up either being an apartheid state with second-class citizens, or it ends up being a state that destroys the capacity of Israel to be a Jewish state. Kerry added to that, once you put that frame in your mind, that reality, which is the bottom line, you understand how imperative it is to get to the two-state solution. U.S. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki told the Daily Beast that Kerry was just restating his position that a two-state solution is the only alternative, something she said that has been expressed by others in the Israeli government. Psaki said Secretary Kerry, like Justice Minister Livni and previous Israeli Prime Ministers Olmert and Barak, was reiterating why there's no such thing as a one-state solution if you believe, as he does, in the principle of a Jewish state. He was talking about the kind of future Israel wants and the kind of future both Israelis and Palestinians would want to envision. The Daily Beast report also includes reaction to Kerry's remarks and his use of the term apartheid in particular, From Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, the first American Jewish leader to speak out about the comments, according to the AJC. Harris said, "While we've heard Secretary Kerry express his understandable fears about alternative prospects for Israel to a two-state deal, and we understand the stakes involved in reaching that deal, the use of the word apartheid is not helpful at all." He said it takes the discussion to an entirely different dimension, adding that in trying to make his point, Kerry reaches into diplomatic vocabulary to raise the stakes, but in doing so he invokes notions that have no place in the discussion. And the Anti-Defamation League also responded to Kerry's reported remarks, saying the use of the term apartheid was offensive and highly inappropriate. ADL National Director Abe Foxman said it is startling and deeply disappointing that a diplomat so knowledgeable and experienced about democratic Israel chose to use such an inaccurate and incendiary term. Foxman further said even if he used the repugnant language of Israel's adversaries and accusers to express concern for Israel's future, it was undiplomatic, unwise, and unfair. Such references, Foxman said, are not seen as expressions of friendship and support. The Jewish mayor of the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv was shot in the back today and is currently in intensive care in critical condition. The mayor, Hennady Kearns, was reportedly shot in an assassination attempt this afternoon while he was out for a jog. It is unclear who was behind the attack. According to the Euro-Asian Congress, when Kern became mayor in 2009, his election campaign was targeted, as was those of other Jewish candidates, by anti-Semitic hate speech. However, it was not clear at this time whether the assassination attempt on Kearns had any anti-Semitic motivation. A delegation of Jewish leaders was among the audience yesterday at the Vatican for the canonization ceremony of Popes John XXIII and John Paul II. The delegation included Israel's ambassador to the Holy See, Zion Evroni, director of Israel's chief rabbinate, Oded Wiener, and American Jewish Committee's international director for interreligious affairs, Rabbi David Rosen, who said he was there to pay his respects to two great heroes of Catholic-Jewish reconciliation. Rosen said no two popes did more to transform the teaching of the Catholic Church toward Jews, Judaism, and Israel from one of hostility to love and respect. The Anti-Defamation League congratulated the Catholic Church and Pope Francis on the event honoring the two pontiffs, saying their words and deeds transformed the Catholic Church's 2,000-year history of anti-Semitism and set a new tone for positive relations with the Jewish people. ADL National Chair Barry Curtis Lusher and National Director Abe Foxman said, "For the Jewish people, Popes John Paul II and John XXIII have already been saints for a long time." He said they reversed a tragic history that for centuries was characterized by enmity, by denigration of Jews, and by anti-Semitism, and set the tone for a new relationship built on mutual trust, friendship, and understanding. Ahead of Sunday's ceremony, World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder said if today's Jews and Catholics live in a framework of fraternity, friendship, and cooperation following 2 millennia of tensions and confrontation, it is to a large extent due to the impulse Popes John XXIII and John Paul II gave to improving relations and to overcoming anti-Semitism in the Church. Pope John XXIII convened the Second Vatican Council, which decreed the Nostra Aetate document that led to the transformation in Catholic teaching regarding Jews, Judaism, and Israel. And Pope John Paul II was the first pontiff to visit a synagogue and the State of Israel. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, April the 28th, we continue with our special programming in honor and memory of Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, including coming up at 6:30, a tribute to Polish resistance fighter and hero Jan Karski. Then at 7:15, director of the Museum for the History of Polish Jews, Dariusz Stola, talks about the museum and the story it tells. And at 10 o'clock tonight, New Jewish Cinema features Israeli film director David Fisher, who talks about his final film in the trilogy 6,000,001, in which he and his siblings retrace the steps of their father who survived the Holocaust. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, April the 28th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.